Hey guys, and welcome back to the greenhouse. Today I'm starting just a little mini series on propagation methods. We're going to go over Hoya, philodendron, and some other kind of randos. We're going to start today with string of hearts. This plant is variegated, but the method is exactly the same for the standard string of hearts. I just actually don't have that one at the moment. I've seen a lot of people propagate these in moss, in soil, in a Ziploc bag, and just close it, keep the humidity in, give it lots of light. Bam, no problem, they all root. For whatever reason, that doesn't tend to work for me. So I've come up with a method that is a little bit more foolproof, and that is perlite. So I like using perlite because it is absorbent enough for the cuttings to just rest on without getting too wet, but I can water it with these saucers and also tell like where the water level is. And so I just add it around the edge there so that I can just judge kind of where the water line is, and I'll fill it until it's about halfway up the depth of the perlites. And I actually get these saucers at my local grocery store. They're like 20 cents or something like that, but I believe I've seen them at Lowe's and Home Depot as well. I can see exactly where the water is, and I can tell when it needs more. So let's talk about where to make a cut. So you'll tend to see what's called the butterfly method a lot, where people will cut in between each node so that you have a pair of leaves per cut. I'm not crazy about this method. I do it sometimes if there's like a long space in between two nodes or something like that, but for some reason it makes me feel like the success rate is going to be lower, and that just kind of freaks me out. So I tend to go with longer sections in between my cuts. One thing that's really important that you want to make sure of is that you're grabbing a section of your plant where the nodes are going to be able to rest on top of the substrate. So if it's a plant that you're propagating this way, it's important that the stem be able to lay flat on the substrate. This cutting has leaves that are oriented kind of some towards me, some away from me, and so as I just lay it on a flat surface, you can tell the stem is not going to be able to rest on the substrate. And if the stem can't rest on it, the nodes can't reach that moisture, so it won't root that way. If you still want to use that particular stem as a propagation, you can just cut off a leaf to allow the node to reach the substrate and take up that moisture and produce roots for you. And you may actually need to remove 2 leaves, which is fine as well. You can tell at this point when I lay it on a flat surface, that stem is going to rest really evenly across the surface of my substrate. So when I go ahead and put it into the perlite, I'm just resting it pretty gently and making sure that, again, those nodes are touching the perlite, because we need them to be able to reach the moisture that the perlite is going to hold. And all of the ones that are in this little saucer right now have already rooted, every single one of them. So I'll show you a quick example right here. This guy, and when you'll just notice if you pick up a stem by a leaf that it's kind of holding on to the perlite, that's your cue that, okay, it's starting to take root. I'm just gonna set him back where he was. And now we can talk about how to care for these cuttings while they're taking root. For these cuttings, I've been using a cloche. So this is my favorite method of rooting anything that I'm laying across, like a bed of perlite or sphagnum, because I can see them all the time. I can move them around really easily, and I don't know, it's kind of cute. So just make sure that you've put your cuttings under a grow light or in a really bright spot, because they do need a lot of light to produce enough energy to produce roots. Here I just have mine on a top shelf so that it's nice and close to my grow light. And if you look at the dome, you can tell there's already some humidity building up inside of that cloche, which is excellent for rooting cuttings as well. Thank you guys so much for joining me again, and if you have any questions or comments, leave them below and I will be sure to respond to every single one. See you guys next time.